just want to state your name and your title.
Sure. Nick Flynn. I'm a professor of biochemistry.
And where did you grow up and what schools did you attend?
Sure. So I was born in Houston. My dad worked for Customs, and then he was transferred over to El Paso. So I pretty much, was for up until about third grade, I was in Houston, and from then on, I was in El Paso. I went to Coronado High School there in El Paso, and then when I graduated, I attended Texas A&M. Got my undergraduate degree in '92. And then liked it so much that I hung around and got my Ph.D. in '97.
And what inspired you to be a teacher, and more specifically, like a chemistry teacher?
As far as a teacher goes, when I was working as a research assistant after I graduated, the gentleman that I was working for, he had a meeting that he had to go to, a diabetes meeting. And so he asked me to give a guest lecture for him. I probably spent about 10 hours working on the lecture for a 75-minute lecture. And I just really and thoroughly enjoyed every single minute of it, putting the lecture together. And so I waited for him to come back and then, asked him, what do I have to do to be able to do that? Because I just really enjoyed doing it. I'd already enjoyed coaching, but that was something that I just really enjoyed doing. So that was kind of where I got started. Never really started out as wanting to be a teacher or anything like that.
And so why did you decide to come to WT?
They had in 2010, they had a department head position open for the Department of Mathematics, Chemistry, and Physics. And I've been serving in other leadership roles as a rugby coach, as a honors program director, ACS student chapter advisor, and I just thought that I could contribute more as far as my leadership goes. And so that was why I applied for the position, and then I ended up getting it.
So outside of the classroom, do you have any particular hobbies?
The big one that I do is I like to homebrew. I also work with some breweries on solving small problems for them, or informal consulting. So I have a big passion for that. In 1993, I was running security for a party of all things, and they were having problems with a particular keg, and so. It was a Shiner Bock keg, and so I helped them out with that, and then with the way that the connection worked, I ended up getting some beer all over my face, as a matter of fact. And I tasted it. I was like, wow, I didn't know beer could actually taste like this. So that was kind of my first introduction to. Now you wouldn't really call Shiner Bock craft beer, but back then it was certainly different than everything else. And so shortly after that, I got into homebrewing.
And what sparked your interest in your brewing?
Primarily finding better tasting beer, or maybe the better term is beer that was more unique in tastes.
Have you developed any unique brewing techniques or recipes that stem from your understanding of chemistry?
Yeah, and I can. I do a mesquite smoked Irish red. That has a really unique taste to it. It is very, what you're looking for, the flavor that you're looking for is in what's called the headspace of the keg. So that's what we call the gaseous phase. So normally when you keg your beer, you will release some of the CO2 to basically get rid of any of the oxygen. And so when I do a mesquite smoked Irish red, I'll add a little bit of antioxidant to the brew. That kind of replaces a little bit of that purging, and so I keep a lot of that mesquite aroma in the headspace that shows up when you pull the beer as well. So that was an application of chemistry as far as brewing goes.
Yeah.
Yep.
In what ways do you think understanding the chemistry behind brewing enhances the overall brewing experience?
Quite a bit. Number one, you have to take a lot of good notes, and you have to learn from those notes. You have to review them. Number two, I pretty much cut my teeth in science on following protocols. So I'll put together a recipe, and this is when I will add my hops and all of that, and I'm really good at that. And of course, from science, in microbiology, I understand that everything has to be clean. And some people don't worry too much about cleaning, say, their brew kettle or something like that, and I even go to the extent of cleaning my brew kettle very well. I actually extend the Star San is a very common sanitizer that you use, not sterilizer, sanitizer. So it knocks down the microbial population. Well, instead of doing the 1 minute exposure that it calls for, I extend that out to 5 minutes. Well, some people would argue that that's overkill, but to me, every extra minute that you're adding on, you're still knocking down that microbial population. So I think that those are some things that have actually enhanced my ability to be a good brewer.
What advice do you have for students trying to balance their academics and personal passions?
That's a good question, and that's a work-life balance question, and that's something that I try to work with students on. Is that you have to be very mindful of your time, mindful of everybody else's time as well. So when I go into a meeting or when I'm meeting with somebody, I have everything kind of written down, or at least in my mind, as to what I want to talk to them about. And I use lists quite a bit, and to me, if a list isn't completed by the end of the day, it's no big deal. I'm just going to go home. I'm going to shut it off, and I'm just going to enjoy the time that I'm going to have with my wife or with my boys, or our pets or anything like that. And when I come back the next day, the list is still there, and I'll just start right back on it and just start crossing things off and working on things. So I think the biggest thing that I would say is it's not there. You have to unplug. If you're going to be healthy, you have to come up with ways to actually unplug yourself and find whatever it is. If it's home brewing, if it's playing checkers or chess or whatever it is that you like to do that. And don't check your emails. You don't need to be checking your emails every 30 minutes or anything like that. And I think that's something that I try to kind of impress on my students.